record designing and delivering impactful programs for organizations ranging from nonprofits to Fortune 10 companies. Betty brings a wealth of expertise in creating transformative experiences. Her passion lies in bringing women leaders together to grow, reflect, and inspire one another. I'll hand it over to Betty.
Thank you so much, and I'd like to invite our esteemed panelists up. All right, that was such a lovely introduction, Kelly. Thank you so much. I'm absolutely honored to be here tonight with all of you in the room and those of you who are online for our panel. And we are going to have a moment where each of these women are going to introduce themselves. And as I said, I'm really honored to be here with these impressive leaders, all who have deep experience in project management. And so Cheryl, we'll start with you.
Thank you. So hello, everyone, and good evening. So one of the things I say a lot about projects is that you can't get a project done without people. So it matters how you treat people. So my name is Cheryl Perkins, and I am a CEO and founder of Workmanship LLC. It specializes in website design, resume building, and also project management consulting.
Hi everyone, I'm Anne. I'm getting over the flu, so my voice is a little squeakier than normal, but I'm really glad I was able to participate tonight. I've been working with and for public sector agencies here in Indiana for about 15 years. I'm currently a senior manager here at Crow. I'm so glad to have you all here tonight. I lead our project management and portfolio management office service offerings here for Crow. I kind of stumbled into project management. I don't think it was something I necessarily set out to do out of school. I think now there's more programs aimed at project management than were around when I was in school, but kind of found it along the way, picked up different tools and experiences from people I was working with and for, and it really just led me to project management. I'm really passionate about it.
Thank you. Susan Vaughn. Ironically, my first job out of college was at Crow Chiswick, which is now Crow. I was a programmer, obviously not a very good one if I do this for a living now. So I worked for 9 years for Crow, and I'll talk more about my journey and how I got to project management. But I started founded a consulting company, the Project Authority, in 2000. Crazy enough, with a 10-month-old at home. I know, it is crazy. So this is all I do now. I laugh because I'm like, yeah, when I was figuring out what project management was, you were probably still in middle school, high school. But no, this is my passion. I've been a member of PMI, CIC since I think 2000. I got my PMP back when it was probably still 5 digits. So 2002, I've had it for a while. Just very passionate about project management.
Hi, my name is Alana Warren. I am a child of the 60s and 70s and entered the workforce in the 80s. So I have a lot of women's discussion about our professional roles from way back when. And I've done investment banking, education, professional training, and then I was a project manager and process improvement manager at a huge nonprofit in Ohio. My last role there was VP of Strategic Outreach. And then as a widow, I moved to get closer to my son and daughter-in-law here in Indiana, which I am loving. And my role here is operations manager at the Indiana Department of Health. So I've seen for-profit, nonprofit, and government. Lots of stories around those different industries.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks so much. And as Kelly mentioned, we are going to cover a wide range of topics tonight, but we're going to lead off with a question for Alona. And we wanted to look at, what are those leadership qualities based on your experience that you just shared that you feel really build that credibility and influence in your projects, especially in male-dominated fields?
Right, and like I mentioned, I was in some of the first wave of women when there were only teachers, secretaries, nurses. And so it was quite a challenge, and there's a lot I could talk to on this, but I decided to hone in on a couple of things that have been impactful for me and truly established, I think, respect and in creating relationships and trying to get things done. And they are these things. I'll start with a story. Not too long ago, I overheard a group of young ladies talking about, oh, working with all those women, they're all so emotional. These were young women saying this. And the next day they were saying, well, men are all pigs and jerks. And now I could offer a little older guidance, and I know these young ladies, and I did. But I was a little sad to hear this first HR inappropriate conversation, but it's an old conversation. It's been around for decades, and to hear young people saying that was interesting to me. And I discovered and then say to them, and I encourage if you have this opportunity to share this conversation if it's appropriate, that I worked with emotional men and emotional women. Investment banking was almost all men. Government, nonprofit is almost all women. Education, almost all women. So, and I've worked with some jerky, piggy women. So rather than trying to stereotype a gender or anybody, we need to have that consideration of considering the merit and the capabilities of and the character of that individual. If you don't, you are going to severely stifle your full capabilities of what you can accomplish both yourself and as a leader and as a group, and establishing that respect is super important. But that's a personal, internal kind of thing that I've noticed, developed, and had to do. And that kind of leads to the second thing that I'd like to share that was hugely impactful to me. Not so technical as much as it is a behavioral observation. And then I learned more about it when I got my MBA at Ohio State in Columbus. And it's this. What is your work culture? Super important. What is your team culture? And this particular culture is a problem in most organizations if we are not aware of what's happening. The Ohio State co-developed it. They called it the country club culture. Another name of it for it is horns and halos. And what that means is, and we all see it, is whoever the decision makers are, or people, coworkers who have important processes that they control, they decide on who's in the country club. And they bring them in. Whether they're effective or not, they're in. And then even if you are effective and you're not in, those folks get used, get burned out, and there's turnover. What's the end result of that? You have a glut of ineffective people in your organization or your team. What's the end result of that? Very slow innovation, very slow progress, high turnover, and a lot of quieted, discontent people, unless you're in the country club. And even then, people might try to mold themselves to be in that, and they're not happy either. They're not being their genuine selves. The horns and halo, same kind of a concept. If those same group of people decide you're cool, they like you, and naturally, socially, we tend to do that. We group together by people we're alike, have similar values, that's great. But when you do it in the workforce, that becomes dangerous. And if you're in the group, you get a halo. So whether you're effective or not effective, you can do no wrong. If you're not in that group, you have horns. So whether you're the best, fantastic, most great producer that ever existed, you're going to have horns. And the horns who are productive don't stay. Same thing. They move on. They get burnt out. And the same thing. You have a glut of ineffective people, and it slows down progress. So I chose those two things to share because I think as I learned about it, one over history and time, but one just understanding understanding the HR culture, what an impact that can make and how that you can be seen as a leader and an individual as being fair and not letting that sort of thing happen.
Alana, thanks so much. And
Sure.
everyone wanted to chime in on this. What other thoughts do we have around kind of leadership credibility and influence?
One thing, just a quick one, is that it's so interesting. When I was at Crow, I was a senior manager also, so a long, long time ago. And that was when we first rolled out laptops. And even though, I mean, it's crazy. And we actually had to buy in half the laptops. It was I'm really old. It was a long time ago. But I'll never forget this really wonderful partner was in this meeting one time and he said, I get that it's more efficient for you to type on your laptop. However, you're being perceived as a secretary of state. And I appreciated him saying that. It's not the same thing. Again, this was late 90s we're talking about here. But sometimes we have to be aware of how, unfortunately, we're talking about the male versus female, that sometimes we are perceived that way. And it just seems like I'm on my condo association's board of managers. Why I ever decided to do that? It's crazy. But they always look like, oh, who wants to take notes? I'm like, don't look at me. I mean, just because I don't want to take notes. So I think that was an interesting point that the guy was saying. I said, so you want me to write the notes down and then fill them later to type them in? Yes. But he was actually very correct in that the perception of sometimes how, and this is a long time ago. However, I hate to say it sometimes, I think that's still the perception, giving the example that in this meeting, I'm being, currently today being asked to take notes. I always look away. I'm like, who are you talking to? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Anne or Cheryl?
Yeah, so when I was reflecting on this, I was just kind of thinking of leaders in my realm and who I thought really could drive a group, drive consensus, move things forward, were really well respected. And it kind of came back to something unconventional. And to me, it was like curiosity. Like they are really interested in the people and in the project, and they want to know about you and they want to know about the work you're doing and really understand it at the root. I mean, as project managers, we're not expected to know everything about everything. That's not our role. But I think when you really can be curious about what the team's doing, what makes them tick, and then kind of use those learnings to your advantage to help inspire them, remove barriers, motivate them to move. So I kind of kept going back to curiosity.
Oh, that's good. So I work at the Indiana University Foundation, and I am the only woman. I'm the only Black woman on my team. So I work with middle-aged guys. And how do I navigate that? I stay true to myself. I make sure that I work hard. I set a tone for my work. I work with excellency. I'm assertive. I make sure that I make my voice heard. But I have a great team. They're pretty much a good, great guys. And so they hear me, I hear them, we push back on each other, but we really strengthen each other. So I would say, make sure that you stay true to yourself, be who you are, but also make sure your work is excellent. I make sure my work is top part. I'm working hard and I do my job and I do it.
All right.
Boom.
Yes.
So I do
Everyone had great responses in thinking about this. And we could probably talk about this one question all night, right? Establishing credibility. What does it take to be a leader? And we have other questions we want to get to tonight. So Susan's going to lead us off talking about overcoming obstacles, but what are some of the biggest challenges you face in your journey as a leader, and how have you overcome them?
All right. So first of all, I cannot say enough amazing things about Crow. So it may sound like when I say this next part is bad, but it's not. It was late 90s,
They're
2000.
censoring you on the panel.
Oh, I don't care. No, I love Crow. I mean, I cannot tell you how much I love working here. I loved everything. It was just the environment back then. And we were still new to project management. So I was part of the team. Actually, ironically, when we did our PMO rollout, what was back then? It wasn't even called PMO back in the 90s. We did the training in the spring. So we've been around forever. And I'm just like, I love this. I love project management. This is all I want to do with the rest of my life. It was me. I loved it. And so at one point I went to the partners and said, I think this is a service line. And they're like, again, late 90s, they're like, we don't agree. And I was like, well, and I had a 10-month-old at home. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go, no hard feelings. I'm just going to go start my own company. And I'm just going to do this on my own. And it was just that amount of passion. And also the work-life balance back then wasn't, and it had nothing to do with Crow, because my ex-husband and I both worked 4 10-hour days, and our daughter was only in daycare 3 days a week. So we were working on that. It's just hard. I never wanted to have to pick an amazing project over my child. And so I'm like, I'm just going to make this up as I go along. I'm going to go start my own company. I thought I was going to do 18-month contracts at Lilly, and that's all I was going to do. Well, super fun thing. A recession hit about the exact same time I was leaving. And I ended up doing project-based work. It is fantastic. Like my daughters are now 25 and 21, living their best life. The one graduates in 2 months. So, okay, very exciting. But I was talking to her today and I said, I got to work. People always say, oh, you're a business owner. You work 24/7, 7 days a week. And I'm like, yeah, not at all. You got that. No, if you looked at my socials, I travel all the time. My clients are like, the trees behind you, the palm trees are moving. I'm like, yeah, I'm in Costa Rica with my mom. I get to do whatever I want. When they were young, I worked 24 to 32 hours a week. I never told my clients, like they'd say, what days are you available? I'm like, these are the days I'm available. They had no idea I was at a school field trip or on a vacation or doing what I wanted to do. These are when I'm available. I put the boundaries around it. And I was passionate enough about being a PM long before it was it. And it wasn't even, like I said, it wasn't just grow. I remember one of my first clients is like, you need to write a white paper because people don't understand what project management is. And it's out of my website because it is, ironically, I wrote it in 2002. It is still relevant today. So it was amazing to look around at people, especially in a very male dominated world. My next level up here would have been partner. I would have been the first female partner in this group. And I had to make a choice between that or going for my passion and doing this. And that's what I ended up doing. Let me see all of that. So this year, aging myself, December was my 24th anniversary. So I'm still doing this, and that's it. Pretty much just work-life balance because I love project management. Any other things you guys want to add?
Yeah. Alana,
Did you want to time?
Yeah, when I thought about this, it's cool to hear. Work hard was the first thing, just like what Cheryl said. Work hard, make yourself valuable. How are you valuable? And is that researching? Is that inquiring? Is that having interviews with people who are doing what you want to do? I did a lot of that stuff. I would even reach out to people I didn't know. And they're always thrilled to have lunch or have a conversation and share with you what they do and don't like about what they're doing. And you can learn a lot from that. And also, I always was doing something to add to my credentials. Like I became an Excel queen. I cannot believe how far that helped me. I got my municipal principal license when I was on the trading floor at the Huntington because I was bored, but that helped me get a promotion and later get a job. You just don't know. As long as you're always doing something to keep adding to your value. And then I documented everything. Now back then I put everything in a folder, but it could have been an email with a compliment. It could be a beautiful summary that I would give to execs out of Excel on how I'm going to save them money or save them time. The two words that got everybody's attention. And then I think the other thing that is super important is sell yourself. Have the courage and I did this, to go talk to the decision makers and ask for a brutally honest conversation because I don't want to waste my time somewhere if it's not going to get me anywhere. And am I in a culture that is amenable to me getting into a leadership position? And so I'd ask for deadlines, brutal honesty, and that's what I did to try to navigate getting where I needed to go.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I mean, I really resonated with that. We've all been doing this for a long time. I think about my own obstacles. I was with a company, and Susan, you were saying like the next place for you to go was partner. I was in a company for 12 years. The next place for me to go was leadership team, C-level, and they told me it was never going to happen. And that was when I was like, and now I'm going to go. And that was actually one of the best things that happened because my son was very young, but like you, I started my own business and that worked out really well.
Cheers, we had a drink.
Hey, cheers.
Yes.
So, and I do want to remind everyone, please, Kelly shared the QR for the Slido. So please keep the questions coming as we're speaking so that we'll definitely have time at the end for questions.
So one of the things I wanted to share about just some challenges I had to overcome. One of them was just managing myself, especially in my journey starting off. I can be direct and straightforward, so I can just send an email and say, hey, did you get this done? And I'm done with it, right? not thinking twice about it, anything of that nature. But the other person on the other end may say, whoa, I don't know how to receive this. You didn't give me any warm and fuzzies. You didn't ask me how I was doing. You didn't ask me about different things I said in the project meeting. And so I had to learn how to be conscious and listen to people, not just hear about what their tasks are doing, but if they talked about their dog, if they talked about their children, if they talked about different things, I had to learn how to actively listen, hear what they were saying, and make sure that when I'm approaching them with poise, I'm approaching them with grace, still having the purpose of the project, but I'm putting the project task in the midst of all that grace to make sure that they feel comfortable. Because once again, you can't get a project done without people. And so how you treat the person, how they're received is very important. And so how they receive the task that I would ask them to do is very important because I need you to get the job done. That's ultimately the goal, is to get the job done, right? And so I had to learn how to manage Cheryl. And it was okay because it made me better. It taught me those interpersonal skills. It taught me those soft skills. It made me a better person. So those are some of my challenges.
And Cheryl,
You got applause. Oh, that's adorable.
That's amazing. One tip about the add-on to that is when I was here, to have partners, they're like, how are you so good at like the client relationships? Can you teach that to other people? Can you do that? But what I would do is what you just said. They would mention their dog's name, they would mention their kid's name, they would mention they were a widow or they're going on vacation. Back in the day, we used to use Outlook. So I would just put it in the notes before we had the whole CRM thing. So I would just put in the notes, this. And they are like, you have the best memory ever. I'm like, nope, just really freaking organized. So that's a great tip and it makes them just building that connection. So then later on, when you want to have you need to have a difficult conversation. They're behind, behind the billings or something's going wrong. You have that interpersonal. So, I mean, that personal connection is so huge in project management. So I just want to add on to the point of just write it down and you seem like a genius. Exactly. And then one partner was like, can you teach other people? I'm like, no, okay, write it down. But you have to buy into it and you have to believe that it makes sense. People think that's dumb. Well, guess what? That's why we're business owners. So.
I love that, and such a nice segue into where we're going now. So kind of focus on relationships. Anne's going to talk a little bit about, how do we go about building a really strong professional network? What advice do you have, for everyone in the room and for those of us online?
I'll just say, if walking stone cold into a networking event isn't your jam, mine either, but I managed somehow, looking back, to have a huge force of people behind me who both love me as a person, support me as a professional, and I'm truly blessed to have that here in Indy. Betty and I were actually talking beforehand, and I told her she stole one of my talking points, because if you've been in Indy long enough, or even, I don't know how long you even really have to be here, you will very quickly realize it is a small town in a big city, and everyone knows everyone. So if you establish just a few really quality relationships, that then dominoes into so many different people and all. So how I came to that, I was reflecting on this. I would say first and foremost, it's kind of a theme that has been shared already. Actually, all themes have been shared already. Is be yourself, be authentic, especially if you're really looking for more of a mentorship role. Those are personal roles. Those transcend just professionals who may be able to help you in different situations. So if you come across with a front or not genuine intentions, you're not going to have genuine relationships. And so that was my one thing I reflected on. Another thing I thought a lot about is sometimes, especially if you're newer, your staff member, senior staff member, it can be kind of intimidating to approach a more senior level person. And that's kind of what we think of as mentors. I've been very fortunate. Pro's a very welcoming community, so I haven't had tremendous barriers there, but I know some organizations that are hard. But what I have learned now as I have grown in my professional career is the people who were staff members with me, were very easy to be friends with back then and kind of learn and grow together, are also now leaders out in the community. Again, staff members here who are now, CEOs, executives, other places, and we're peer mentors, and I get so much value out of them, and they're my advocates and I am theirs. So that was something I thought a lot about too. And again, Indy's just a small town in a big city. And the last thing I wanted to say, which was something Alana touched on too, is people genuinely want to help each other, especially in Central Indiana. You know, Hoosier hospitality, we embody it here. And so I think if you use some of the tips and tricks that have been shared about how to kind of build those relationships, I think you do not need to be fearful of reaching out. Even if some time has lapsed with someone you've met, reaching back out and kind of, you know what you want if you don't know what you want, but kind of starting with an ask of coffee or lunch or a quick call. And it's even harder now in virtual. I was fortunate that a lot of my professional life was in person, and you can have those hallway conversations. But don't let that virtual wall stop you from reaching out to people. I think honestly, probably we're craving those interactions more now than we might have been. Some thoughts I had.
And
So one part of that, like when I was at Crow, we had a women's group. We were part of
still
that.
do. Yeah.
Amazing. And I was like, I want more. And so I went out and found, this was in 2000. It started in 1999, Women in High Tech. And that's actually how I know Kelly. Kelly and I are on the board together. She's been on the board twice. It was so much fun. She came back. And they're my people. I mean, when I started my own company, there's no chargeable and non-chargeable. I guess there is, but I can give up as much time as I want and not bill for it. But you have to pick and choose what you do. And Women in High Tech was one that I do. They're my best friends. I mean, on this, I still am on the board. I joined in 2003. I'm still on because I'm one of the two old people that know where all the bodies are hidden. So we do know that. The other part is when I started my company was, I mean, again, remember, people didn't know what project management was. So I'm selling something people don't get, and I'm a woman. And I'm a woman business owner. That wasn't a big deal back then. My daughter, my youngest, she's in the Kelly School of Business, and she was gonna join the Women in Business Club. And I said, "Did you explain that your mom's a business owner? You worked for my company since you were 14?" And she's like, "Oh, why would I?" I was like, "Okay, well, how many of the people do you know that are women business owners, personally, neighbors, friends, family?" Nobody. So it was a big deal back then to do this. And so I would go to meetings, 2 more people. I would just go, because remember, a recession happened and I was looking for work. I went to, there was at the Columbia Club, and it was, no offense to men, but 200 people there and 190 were men. And then there were 10 people of women and of color. You know what was cool? It was very uncomfortable. You know what was cool? I was different. And that was the second project I got, the big project I got, because I made myself uncomfortable. I go to groups, I sit with people I don't do this before. Sorry, Kelly, you know I don't. Back then I would sit with people I don't know. And I still do that sometimes because Kelly already knows what I do. And I sit at a table. Sometimes you just want to sit with friends. That's fine. But you need to make yourself uncomfortable is what you need to do. The other part is I mentor people. We have a lot of peer mentorships. I have friends, a lot of them do Women in High Tech are just like, you know what, I'm struggling right now. Just in life, emotionally, things like, I just need time. Like, can you just meet with me, have a dream, do this? Everyone struggles sometimes. Even if it's not work related, you're just having a hard time in life. Ask for someone to help you prop yourself back up. And in this room, in your life, ask people if you're like, you know what, you're similar to me. Will you mentor me? Whether it's peer level, above, below, ask people. Don't be scared of that at all, because people usually will say yes to that. The thing is, you have to make it easy on them. If you're asking someone to mentor you, make it easy on them, come to them, do that. If you want tips on that, let me know. And that's pretty much it.
Fantastic. No, I really was going to talk about the mentorship. Like, everyone in this room can be a mentor, as you were saying. You can mentor up. I mean, one of the beautiful things about this panel is kind of the difference in ages here. And, you know, some of the people I learned the most from are people who are mentoring me who are in their 20s. I just sat on a panel this weekend with a woman who's 28. I learned so much from her about how to do my business, how to interact. And I just love that. So everyone has something to offer. All right. So, Cheryl's taking on the big question. All right. She's taking on work-life balance. Like, is that really a thing? And Cheryl, how do you balance being a high performing leader in your personal and family commitments. And I love that your family's here with us.
So it's so funny because I've been working since I was 16 years old, and my mom was an accountant. My daddy's been working at the same company for 53 years. He retired. He had the top job, and so they taught me you go to a brick and mortar, right? That's what you do. That's what I knew. I get in the car. I go to work. I work hard. I'm driving in traffic all day. So I started my project management career really pretty much during COVID. So everything was virtual. I never knew anything about working from home. No one ever told me. My parents didn't show me. My grandparents didn't show me. So I knew nothing about working from home, but I still had to perform at the top while I'm navigating Teams, I'm navigating Zoom, I'm navigating work ethic for emails, I'm navigating work ethic for Zoom calls. You know, you're watching so much happen over a Zoom call sometimes, and you're like, okay, but future's art. In so many of the conversations, sometimes it go left, and you're like, what? But still, I had to learn how to navigate that, right? And so one of the things that I learned how to navigate, and first of all, I want to say I loved working from home when I started working from home. I said, oh, this is for me, right? It's so funny. But during that time, I was working for the Department of Education, and I got a bonus during that time because of the work that I did, because of my performance. Even though I was still learning and navigating, but even in that, I was still able to get a bonus because of my performance. So what did I learn? I learned that my calendar is my best friend. You put it on my calendar, I'm going to get reminders, and that's great. So I'm going to look at my calendar before I go to bed. I'll also look at it in the morning time because I want to make sure what do I need to prep for, who do I need to talk to, how long is this meeting going to be, who's going to show up. Another thing that I do in my personal calendar and my work calendar, I can integrate if I need to, just in case on how I can see what my time availability is. Another best practice that I do is after my project meetings, if I don't have back-to-back meetings, I take that time right after that project meeting. I schedule my follow-up meetings. I do my action items. I schedule follow-ups, emails for tasks, all that. I make sure I'm automating as much as I can, making sure that I'm doing those things right after that meeting. So that keeps me fresh and make sure that everybody is on board, and I'm making sure that I'm getting all my tasks done. I also block off time on my calendar and for project work and for focus time. Another tip, which I think is really good, is working sessions. So I schedule meetings with my colleagues and we work together. We may work on a document together, but we're actually completing tasks. So it's very helpful. Another thing that I learned from my pastor was to prioritize, balance your life, work and life. So I put God first, family, and then work. So I spend my mornings, and that's my time. So I'm praying, I'm reading my Bible. That's time for Cheryl. I get to think, I get to breathe. That's me before I start my busy hustle day, where it's probably nonstop. I'm doing things on my lunch break. I'm going here, going there, responding to text messages, taking phone calls. So, but I still need my time, right? And so that's the time I do. I do things that's important to me, working out, spending time with my family and my friends, hanging out, talking to people, helping others is something I love doing. My home life, though. So I have a tracker. I'm such a project manager. So I have a chore tracker. Yes, I do. And it's an app. It's on my phone. I have all my rooms. I have all my tasks in there. So all I have to do is do a check, and I love checking things off. So I go check, check, check. I did that. I did this. And then I also automate stuff. So my vacuuming is automated. I have my lights automated. There's different things. I have an automated kettle for my home. I mean, there's just different things that I can automate in my home to make it easier because I am really busy. And then for my family, what I do for my family is that I make sure they tell me something that's important. I'm blocking my calendar off. I'm just taking the day off. Like my niece has a whole program. She's an 8th grader. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I have a niece that's an 8th grader, but she's an 8th grader, right? And so she has this program. It's early in the morning. I said, I'm taking a whole day off because I love my niece, even though she's a teenager. So she may not want to hang out with me afterwards if she's a teenager, but that's okay. I'm going to be there and support her. So that's one of the things I do. I make sure I communicate any emergencies. But also another thing that I do for work, I'm a multitasker. I love multitasking. However, when I know I need to get something done, I make sure I have singleness of heart. So I focus on that task and I get everything done and I give it all I got. And then I move on to the next one. So in conclusion, work-life balance is important. I like my work-life balance. I think it's great. Now, whether you're going into a building or you're working from home, prioritize, take out time for yourself, be present with your family and friends, And when you're working, give it all you got.
That's awesome. Welcome to Cheryl's TED Talk. I know. I was see. My answer would have been, I'm very organized at work, but then when you get to my house, you didn't. You just kept going. I'm like, oh, all right. Keep my mouth shut. But now you all know. Don't put my card.
Great. That's our theory with our family. My ring says APTZ. It's always pick the zoo. So when given the chance of if being organized at home or going to the zoo, which is ironic.
I was just thinking about
We're
that.
going to the zoo every time, and it's more about the adventures in life and the time with your kids. I mean, just in a hot second, they'll be out. Mine are 20, like I said, 25, 21. Couple notes that I had as part of this. So I did the work-life balance, work from home thing starting in 2000. So I mean, it was long before it was cool and any of that. And so there was times I was really good at it, times I wasn't. The one thing is when you fall off the wagon and you're like, I spent a lot of time doing this or doing laundry during the day, forgive yourself, get back on track. Work-life balance on the queen of this. Like today, daughter's home for spring break. We had facials, massages. I get facials twice a month, massages every week. I take care of myself. I prioritize. Also, I'm a single mom and empty nester. So, I can do that because I don't have other people at home. Other thing, block out time for yourself. That was a really good piece of it. And then watch what you're modeling for other people. So you don't realize, especially having two daughters, what you model for them. Crazy enough, my oldest went into a extremely male-dominated field. She is a sports anchor reporter, and she's been doing it since she was 10 years old. She now is 25, and she's just started a job. She covers the pros in St. Louis, so that's a pretty big deal. So be careful what you've got people watching you in your world, and involving your kids. Like my kids, I teach an online class at Purdue, their project management essentials. So they've been grading my papers there forever. So I had to share this because you guys, when you're talking about some of that. So they've always, like the critical path was one of the homework assignments. And so they always knew the answer is this, and that was how they worked for me. They would grade those assignments. Gabby, my youngest, is in business school, and she's like, Mom, we're doing critical path here. I know how to do it. I know I get what the numbers mean. I was like, yes. And when our child was 4 months old, maybe, my ex-husband, he was a Six Sigma Black Belt project manager. So that's a super fun household, right? That's good. Shocking we didn't stay married, I know. But he came up with the idea in the middle of the night. We were like, I'm always doing this. I'm always doing this. You're like passive aggressive, not doing the dishes. Not sure if anyone ever done that in their life? Anyone? Yes. He came up with the roles responsibility document. I'm kidding. So he came up with the whole roles responsibility, what the task was and stuff. And I have a whole presentation about how to use project management for work-life balance. If anyone wants that, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, it's so funny. If I could just say really quick, Betty, I applaud. First off, thank you for the trailblazers in the room, because I now don't have to start my own business for work-life balance. I just wanted to put a plug in for professional services. I obviously work at Crow. I think a lot of Crow type organizations offer a lot of tremendous benefits nowadays around work-life balance for males and females. I'm actually on a flexible work arrangement here at Crow. I work 32 hours a week. Like you all, I wanted to be there for my children, but I also just wasn't a stay-at-home mom. So just ask about those things, especially if you're considering a new organization. Advocate for yourself too. We've hit on COVID a few times. I think that's changed a lot of it as well. People are just more flexible. I just want to say, well, I commend these trailblazers. We live in a different time, and that I'm very grateful for.
Thank goodness.
So ask for it. Take advantage of it.
All right, well, we have one last question before we get to our Q&A, and it's full circle. So, Alana, how do you foster innovation and adaptability within your work?
Okay, so again, had to drill down to what I feel has been impactful for me. And I learned a concept called take versus cultivate a long time ago. Most managers and a lot of organizations, we just tend to take from those who are giving. We all know who those people are. They're the producers. They work fast. They just get it. They're offering up. They almost research and find things even before you're asking for them. They're intuitive. So it's easy to get lazy and just rely on those you can just take from versus cultivate. If you want to get full capacity and or greater capacity, are you cultivating from all the rest of your team members? What do they also have to offer? They don't need to sound and look just like the golden employee. That's a mistake, in my opinion. And it's a lot more fun. It's a lot richer. So if you're going to have a lot of brainstorming, create a safe brainstorming environment where people can say anything they need to say. Any idea is okay. And there does have to be that safety and an acceptance that you're going to hear what everybody has to say, not just the golden employee. You get just so much more when you cultivate that out of your group and out of your individuals. You make that mistake. It's just way too easy to do. And the other thing is team unity. Team unity and one-on-one. So how often are we getting to know, and like Cheryl, you said people several times. I agree, the same thing. We get super technical, but it's still people in the end that we're interacting with. So what is that team dynamic? What is that culture? Is it a horns and halo? Is it a country club team? You just can't let that happen if you want to get your maximum productivity out of what you're trying to do. And brainstorming, get those ideas, encourage those qualitative interviews, or those. I've literally Googled people and looked them up in the phone book when that was still a thing, and called and met with people and say, what do you know about this? Oh, okay, I hadn't thought about that. As long as it's not a competitive company, just do it, go for it. And it's a lot of fun too. And then in your one-on-ones, not just the team dynamic, but how often are we meeting one-on-one with our teams, finding out what's really going on in their lives and their piece of a project. Are they discouraged? Are they encouraged? I asked 3 questions. 1, what is going well? And let's see what they say. They could talk personal and they may have things going on you had no idea about, or they're saying, oh my gosh, I cannot figure out this one piece because so-and-so is not calling me back, or it's bottlenecked somewhere else and I can't go forward. Or, well, that's the what's not going well. The what's not going well. What's going well, which is, I start with that. So you start on a positive. Then what's not going well? Then what do you need from me or the team or anybody else to overcome that barrier? And then literally while you're sitting there, grab a person, bring them in, and have the discussion. Call someone on the phone, send an email, and then walk out with next steps for yourself, for that person. It doesn't have to be, it can be jotted on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be super formal, so that you keep things moving. You know what's going on with your individuals. You are creating a dynamic. I say have fun while you're getting things done, whatever. I used to bring, that you've probably seen it before, my teacher joke book. It's I keep that. I used to keep that at work even, that you can tell really stupid, dorky teacher jokes. They're always appropriate, but it gets everybody involved, and it's fun, it's relaxing. So make sure you bring that levity, because don't we all need a little bit of fun? And then to keep the dynamic of innovation going, there has to be momentum all the time. Are we asking questions? Are we saying, oh gosh, I saw this on TV. Have you looked at this? I encourage people to read anything and everything. Grab a manual, read the small print. What can your team know that someone else doesn't know? If you take the time to read this, look at this, talk to this person, you now have something you can offer to a bigger solution that your organization is looking for. So I'm always encouraging that kind of exploration. I So that has to be factual, and then I've talked about qualitative interviews as well. You need to get those opinions, and don't just do management opinion. Get to the front line. That's where the people are discovering what needs to happen, what's going wrong, what's going well. So much of that conversation stays at a management and a director and higher levels. That's a whole different aspect and a whole different conversation. And it is not always root cause, hands-on, tangible solutions. Mix it up. And people on the front line would love to be recognized for their opinion. I pass out candy at Easter and at, Valentine's Day, just because I want to show appreciation, and I've sat in those seats. And so you're going to learn a lot from that. They have a lot of thank yous. And I think those are the main things that I have discovered make a big difference.
One quick tip on that. You said at the end of candy. So when I was working at Crow, I had a candy bowl outside of my desk. Oh yeah, all kinds of friends. That's a little life tip for you. But all people like come up, they want to come when you're not at your desk. But then they come like make some small talk with you. You make all kinds of friends.
I'll just add, whenever I see the word innovation, I always think it needs to be some like monumental technology solution, fully automated. AI's all the rage. That's not my jam, really. I need to get back. Olivia and Robert in the back corner, they help me. But innovation doesn't need to be technology. I'm coming up in project management at the right time because we're transitioning to all the agile mindset and all that, because I also hate a lot of documentation and all that detail-oriented stuff. I think agility really encourages teams to be more innovative. It gives some guide rails, but it also gives freedom. The whole idea of failing fast, but assessing like why you failed, what you have to do for the next time, continuous improvement. I think all those things can apply to a lot of smaller pieces of projects that we could be implementing more regularly for better results.
So I agree with what everyone has said. One of the things that I'm learning about how to build team morale is I love dad jokes. I love funny jokes. And so it was this one team and they were super quiet. Like when I come on the call, I'm like the only person that's super happy. I'm like, hey, how's everybody doing? All this energy, and they're just like, all of them are on mute and they're just waving. And I'm like, okay. So I started telling dad jokes, right? And that opened up the room. And they were all clean and they were all professional. And so I'm like, here we go, guys. They're like, oh, I have a dad joke. I'm like, yes, I got my jam for this. I like that word jam. But I got my jam for this team. I'm like, this is cool. They finally got them lifted up and they finally can now learn how to talk with each other because this is where we're here, guys. But still, you learn how to create that morale for that project team, and that's important. But they also got to feel comfortable. Another tip is that ask them, hey, what's successful personally in your life and what's successful professionally? That's another way. So if you have a team that does a lot, they're busy both in their natural life and their professional life, so have them talk about it because you never know how they can get tips and learn from one another. And then my biggest thing is care. So care about the people that you work with. Make sure they know that you care. Saying thank you is important. Appreciating them is important. I try to tell my teams all the time. I work with a lot of different people. I tell them thank you. I say I appreciate you. I'm always trying to recognize somebody for something good that they did. Whether it's a kudos, it doesn't matter. I'm telling my boss I'm doing something because I want to make sure that people know that you're appreciated and you're valued.
I'm going to add on something.
Yeah. I didn't also for the cherry.
Yeah, I will be here. So the one to add on what she was saying about the over documentation, since we all are PMs in this room, I've been doing, like I said, since the 90s. And I honestly think I've been doing it wrong for a long time. So I've been doing these big PMOs and all these things. A few years ago, a client came to me and said, we want this, all these metrics and this, da, da, da. And I was like, how mature is this organization? Not at all. I'm like, this will fail. And so I came up with project management for the real world. And so I'm like, I do a half-day training and it's like, it's just a simple document, like a scope diagram. That's it. The next one's planning, project on a page, 1-page project charter. We don't need 15. You don't keep it current. No one reads it. So I finally was just like, let's just leave it real
and do what we want. We don't need all that documentation. So if anything I've done wrong all these years, stop with all the, it's like you go to dinner, don't get a 5-course meal. Get the appetizer. If you want more, add on more, but we don't need all this stuff. So if I can save any of you from doing that, stop doing what I used to do. And then one thing too, Betty is a freaking rock star. Okay, I'll tell you how amazing. How many times you've been in panel discussions and it's like literally like they just pass the mic down and everyone says like a couple words. We planned ahead. She assigned, we met, we assigned topics. Which ones do you want to chime in on? This look really fluid here. Oh, we planned it. And it's all because of her.
Yes.
I have been on so many panels and she's a rock star. So I want to give it up for Betty.
I know you have questions. These amazing women. So we'll get to Q&A, and if you had done the QR code and the Slido, you can submit questions, but we should be seeing them on the screen.
We'll put the QR code back up. Too,
All
but I know
right.
there's questions in there. So
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
here's
And-
that QR code again.
Yeah, and while we're doing that, just a huge round of applause for our panelists. They're amazing.
I don't have any.
I know, I love this.
That's my no documentation.
Yes. We have the text people, the paper people. But she's
And caught
awesome.
it in her head. I love that.
I did prep.
It's exciting. So just so you know, the questions are going to come up and they'll probably be rank ordered. I'll read them out.
Okay.
And-
Oh, shoot.
I wasn't planning to come back up here, but I will share that this panel or this event is really exciting to me. It's been an idea of mine for a really long time, so it's really exciting to see it come to fruition. Betty was introduced to me through somebody I know in my network when I was looking for the moderator for this event. So now I consider us friends and connections. But everybody on this panel is somebody that I've known through my network, and it's just so special to kind of see this like happen. So thank you all for being here. This is incredible. Thank you.
And thank you, Kelly.
All right, so we do have questions, and I apologize, I'll have to stand, but I'll do kind of the Vanna White thing. So our very first question from Anonymous, do we tend to skip the warm and fuzzies because we're naturally action-oriented and result-oriented, especially in typing versus talking directly to the person? We talked a little bit about that. Do you want to take that, Alana?
For me, I probably go too far towards the warm and fuzzies. But I also am action oriented. I am an achiever. That's my number one strength finder is quality. But I also am such a social person that I have a lot of fun around the people. So it may be a personality thing if there's time for it, but not me. The warm and fuzzies get in the way sometimes.
I was just thinking, and I don't have any tips. I was more reflecting while you were talking. I don't know about the rest of you, but there's like this 5 minutes at the beginning of a meeting when everyone's on another virtual meeting and they're coming into your meeting and you're just waiting there. I feel like we need to think of more creative ways to use that 5 minutes. Typical like, oh, what's new with you? Oh, what's the weather like over there? And then silence. And so I don't know, maybe it's my challenge, my call to action is like, how could we better use that 5 minutes? Because you're gonna have it.
Yep.
And to build rapport.
Yeah.
I think
Or jump in.
Go ahead.
I think as a project manager, and just being in this kind of field, you are action oriented. And so your first thought is we need to get a job done, we need to do something. However, learning how to step back, doing the warm and fuzzies, and I'm learning that the warm and fuzzies do matter. And so learning how to retrain the way you think will really help you to integrate those warm and fuzzies in your conversation. But it is easier when you're in person because when you see them and say, hey, how you doing? You can start that small talk conversation.
I'm sure.
I do think
I'll
you
go
have
with
to
you.
plan for it though.
Mm-hmm.
Or you'll skip right past it.
Yeah,
You
it's,
will.
I was gonna say to Anne's point, like, it's in the meeting agenda, the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You have a chat and you can have like a warm-up question
Yeah.
in there.
Hey, Betty.
Yeah.
So I'll admit, I'm the one who posted that
Oh.
in response to what you said, Cheryl, because all of a sudden I remembered, and I actually just did this week. I started an email just getting right to it, you know, and then I noticed that I didn't include a greeting, no warm and fuzzy. And then I remembered like how many times I've had supervisors and managers tell me, you know what kind of bothers me about you is you send emails and you never start them off with like, hey, how you doing?
No, so I have a whole story about that. So I was working at a company and the guy, he was trying to transition me into customer service. I'm like, okay, cool. And I didn't know anything about it at that time or what was required of me. So I sent him an email. Now, my email etiquette was wrong at that time. I didn't say hello. I didn't say thank you. I just typed all my 7 questions. That was it. And I clicked send. Okay. So he came downstairs and he was like, what are all your 7 questions? He wasn't happy with me, right? And I was thinking, well, how do you know I typed 7 questions? That's all he counted was the 7 questions. He didn't read the 7 questions. He didn't like the 7 questions. He just knew it was 7 questions, comes downstairs and say, hey, tell me what your 7 questions are. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So warm and fuzzies are very important.
I'm the fragile overthinker who needs the warm and fuzzies. So thank you. That's me.
We can go with this class for like 2 minutes, or we okay? 5 minutes? Awesome. All right, so we'll hopefully get to a couple more questions. Project management often involves navigating difficult conversations. How do you approach conflict resolution?
Do it.
A lot of,
Okay, this is what I live by. When emotions run high, let the facts be your guide.
Oh, that's good.
And keep going back to the facts. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in all the emotions and the territory fighting. Let the facts be your guide, and keep gathering information until the way becomes clear.
Are you gonna clap for her? Come on.
So I was looking at Dad to class. I think, you know.
yeah, you ready for
Yeah,
another
another question. Bring it.
So,
We can't top her
around.
question.
All right, I'm gonna go with this one. What's one leadership lesson you wish you had learned earlier in your career?
I think I saw one up there with imposter syndrome. I think I wish I would have learned earlier on. I mean, I'm an expert. I've been doing this for decades and I still suffer from imposter syndrome. And I wish I would have known earlier on how amazing I was and I believed it. And so, I mean, I think that's what I would tell younger people is if you're good at it, don't apologize for it and just own it. So that would be.
I think be yourself and trust. It has to work out that way, because if you're not being yourself, you're going to run into walls eventually anyway. So be yourself, be authentic.
My head went to trust your gut and don't care what people think about you.
Yeah. I'm gonna hang out with Ann, you know.
It's fun.
Sorry, I'm fun.
Especially when I'm not getting over it.
Yes.
All right. Fantastic. Well, actually, Cheryl, do you mind if I share that this is your first panel?
Oh, sure.
All right, this is Cheryl's first panel. Like, I think we really embody that. Like, Cheryl mentioned that she's a little nervous about doing this panel. And you came, you're authentic, you shared your life experience, and it's really powerful. Yeah, and everyone has. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
You. One last question. 1 or 2. Okay. So we'll go with what's a book, podcast, or resource that has shaped your leadership journey?
That's not for me. It's for a younger person.
Yeah, I don't.
Podcast. One of the original, I'm not sure if anyone knows Lou Russell. Lou Russell was a pioneer in the project management book world, and she kept really simple things. So Russell Martin Associates, I think she's since retired, but it was a big deal for me when I first started. It was just like the accidental project manager. People didn't want to be project managers, so that was a big deal for me when I started my company. She was my mentor as part of that because she had very simple books.
All the podcasts I listen to are parenting.
Oh, yeah.
Say people though. I've learned most people.
You learn a lot. The one I would share, and it's not necessarily project management or change management, which is my field, but Wiser Than Me, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, is interviews with older women who are so amazing and they share their life lessons. And it's super inspiring. So I'd love to share that with you all. For the business owners on the panel, what's different now about starting a PM consulting firm versus when you began?
I'll take it. I've been around for the longest. When you started it a long time ago, first of all, there was barely the web. So my original name I wanted was Critical Path Consulting. I'm glad I didn't pick that, kind of that, but it was already taken. So you just go out and search for it. Thank God I was a techie. I had to set up my own mail server. There was no GoDaddy.com. You just said, make it. So you had to get your own lawyer, your own account, your own website. You're doing it all yourself. My own mail server, my this, my that. It was not easy back then, and there weren't a lot of business owners, especially women business owners back in the day. So it's a lot more fun now. GoDaddy does a lot for you.
I would say one of the things that I wish I would have learned was how to market myself better. So I'm just not good at sometimes talking about myself. I've gotten better at it. But when I first started out, I just didn't sell myself. And one of my friends was like, you have to sell yourself. I'm thinking, yeah, no. But I'm like, I don't do that. But I'm learning how not to so much sell myself, but be myself and tell them what I have to offer and let my work speak for itself. And that's what I've learned. So I don't have to always sell myself and try to make it happen. Just I'm gonna show you my work, and my work is gonna speak for itself.
I knew it. I was waiting for it.
Yes, I think that's kind of wrapping up here. We didn't get to all the questions, but I'm guessing our panelists will hang out for a few minutes. I don't know what time we're getting kicked out of the room, but
I don't know if we are.
feel free
No one's here anymore.
to ask questions and hang out here. So one more round of applause. I want to take our I'll go back to the slides here. Yeah, and then yeah.
Oh, that's nice. And feel free to follow. I'll say me. I'm sure everyone up here on LinkedIn. Mine's Susan Vaughn PMP. That's it. You can follow me.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I have a couple of closing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you
announcements
so much.
to get out. We'll do a quick transition. So I'll say kind of a parting, like we lost our mic, parting thought on this. So I work at the state and I attended a women's event earlier this month. And one of the things they challenged us to do, and I talked at the beginning about, what's one thing you can do on your journey from here for another woman. One thing they kind of challenged us to do was, to create more space and opportunities for somebody else. And I'm just really excited and proud that we were able to do that tonight. It was Cheryl's first panel, and just giving other women the space to do this was just really special and exciting for me. So I'm just very glad that we were able to do it. All right, so a couple of thoughts. Chat with each other in the chat. Share contact information and things. We will have a couple minutes here in the room if y'all want to hang out here afterwards. There's a everybody on their phone. So we'll give everybody a minute or two to fill out that survey.
Kelly, there's that question, the recent grad about feel good and notice.
Yeah.
I have a piece of advice for that person. Connect with these fine people.
Yeah.
Seek advice.
Yes. There are amazing people in this room and online. So yes, use the network. That's basically what we're here for with the chapter. So okay, some fun things you can look forward to here coming up with our chapter. We are bringing back meetups and networking events, and this is the first one that we've got coming up on April 10th. So, and I want to give you the backstory on this. So over the weekend, the board and we were having a working session, and John actually joined. We're asking, hey, how's everybody doing? Like, oh, I'm right in the middle of like goal setting and performance reviews, and it's just really getting to me. And it's like, oh, me too. Like, this has just been a tough month. Somebody else said the same thing, and we're like, you know what? Let's actually get everybody together and talk about this. So performance review season's here. We want to get everybody together to talk about it. You know, as PMs, it's hard sometimes because you get feedback like you need to be more strategic and tactical, right? And it's like hard to navigate that feedback. So please come out. We're calling it Confessions of a Project Manager. The performance review edition is going to be on Thursday, April 10th at Blind Owl Brewery after work. So like 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Going to be laid back, no filter networking, where we're going to talk about like horror stories of performance reviews, tackle the challenges of setting PM goals, just hear from you all on some of the comments you've gotten on performance reviews in the past. So expect laughs, a little bit of like therapy, and just camaraderie around the topic of performance reviews. So we're excited about that. This one I'm really excited to announce. We just opened the registration for this on our website today or the other day. We are doing an exclusive, one-of-a-kind, behind-the-scenes tour of the 64th annual Indianapolis Decorator Show House on April 28th. It's not just a tour, it's like hearing from the organizers and the creators of the event on how project management, stakeholder coordination, and risk management come together to bring a huge high-profile event like this to life. So project management is everywhere, and we're really excited to demonstrate that with this event. The architectural designer will be there. His name's Matt Harris. We're going to have show house project chairs Lisa Brewer and Kirsten Tully, who've overseen every detail of this complex initiative since before the pandemic. So we'll kind of hear the spectrum of what happened before and now after. They're going to talk about how they balance budgets, deal with shifting scope, and handle diverse teams of designers, landscapers, and sponsors, challenges that any project manager can relate to. It is also a fundraiser to support Eskenazi Health, so it's a really fun opportunity to learn, network, and contribute to a great cause. The price of the event also includes dinner, so you're getting a tour, dinner, and a presentation around this high-profile project. It's going to be on April 28th, and the show house this year is up around 56 and 10, and we've got early bird tickets available on our website now. And we talked about PM Expos. Tomorrow it's free PDUs. If you're looking for more PDUs on Friday, we are joining the Chapter Exchange program. It's kind of a global event initiative. So on Friday, there is a daytime event about shifting hybrid methodologies. So check it out if you're looking for more opportunities to get some education and PDUs. All right, well, thank you all so much again for joining us tonight. I hope to see you all back out at one of our events in April, and have a great evening.
I think things on my arm.
I know, I
By the way, that storm's kind of moving. I think we're okay.